So when people think about Diana, Princess of Wales, they usually picture the perfect royal, calm, elegant, always kind to people who are struggling. That's the image everyone remembers. And when she died in 1997, it didn't feel like a normal celebrity death. It felt shocking, like something went very wrong. She was still young. Her life looked like it was opening up, and suddenly her two sons were left without a mother. But if you look at her life closely, the story isn't shiny at all. There's a big gap between how things looked and how they actually were. A lot of people even believe her death wasn't an accident, but something planned, because she had become too hard to control. Whether that's true or not, her life before that was already heavy. Hey friends, welcome back to our channel. I'm Nathan. So this is an English shadowing exercise. To get value from it, you must practice, not just listen. Listen carefully. Pause when you need to. Try to repeat each sentence out loud. The sentences in this story are kept simple and clear, so they're easier to follow and shadow as you listen. Don't stress about being perfect. Progress comes from repetition, not perfection. So let's start. Diana was born on July 1st, 1961, into the Spencer family. This wasn't a normal family. They were rich, old money rich, big house, titles, history, and close connections to the royal family. She grew up with two older sisters and two brothers in a place called Park House in England. Money was never a problem. She even played with kids from the royal family when she was young. But inside the house, things were cold. Her parents didn't have a warm marriage. They didn't say, "I love you," to each other. They didn't really say it to their kids either. Most of the caring was left to nannies. Diana learned very early that affection wasn't something you could count on. When she was 6 years old, her parents divorced. That broke whatever sense of stability she had. A few years later, she was sent away to boarding school. Her mother remarried a wealthy businessman. Her father remarried a woman named Rain. The kids weren't even invited to the wedding. They found out about it in the newspaper. That stayed with Diana. She and her siblings hated Rain. They saw her as the person who ruined their family. Whether that was fair or not didn't matter. That feeling stuck. Diana herself was quiet. School wasn't easy for her. Inside her own family, she was called the thick one, which is brutal when you think about it. Every bad grade made her feel like she was failing again. She cried a lot at school, not because she was lazy, but because she wanted approval and never felt like she got it. What she wanted was simple. She wanted to be loved, not admired, not judged, just loved. Somewhere along the way, she started dreaming about being rescued, about a prince who would take her away and give her the affection she never had growing up. And later on, that dream actually came true, just not in the way she imagined. So here's where things start to turn. Diana first met Prince Charles when she was 16. He wasn't interested in her at the time. He was actually dating her older sister, Sarah. The age gap was big. He was almost 30, and it didn't last. They went their separate ways, but Charles remembered Diana. He later said she left an impression. She was young, cheerful, and easy to be around. Compared to the women he usually dated, she felt different. A few years passed. Diana grew up, and instead of living the typical rich girl life, parties, travel, no responsibilities, she chose something very normal. She worked as a kindergarten assistant. She shared an apartment with friends. She lived off her own paycheck. She loved being around kids. It gave her something she never really had growing up: warmth, affection, and a sense that she mattered to someone. During that time, Diana felt like her life had meaning again. She even talked about feeling a sense of destiny, like something important was waiting for her. She didn't know what it was, yet she just felt it. Meanwhile, Charles was stuck. He had been in love for years with Camilla Shand, but Camilla wasn't considered suitable by the royal family. She didn't fit the image of a future queen, so she married someone else, a wealthy man named Andrew Parker Bowles. But the relationship between Charles and Camilla never really ended. They kept seeing each other in secret. By the time Charles reached his 30s, pressure from his family was intense. He needed to settle down. He needed a wife. And not just any wife. Someone young, aristocratic, clean, quiet, and controllable. Diana checked every box. They didn't date for years. They didn't grow slowly. They went on about 13 dates. That was it. Then Charles proposed. Diana was barely 18. She hardly knew him, but to her, it felt like that destiny she'd been waiting for. The prince had come. The dream was happening. After the engagement, the media went wild. During one interview, a reporter asked if they were in love. Diana smiled and said, "Of course." Charles laughed and added, "Whatever in love means. If you watch that clip, it's painful. You can see it hit her in real time." Years later, Diana said that moment stayed with her. She knew right then that something was wrong, but the pressure was already too big. The world was watching. Backing out wasn't an option. The wedding became one of the most expensive and watched events in history. If it happened today, experts estimate it would cost somewhere between $70 and $100 million. To everyone watching on TV, it looked like a fairy tale. Diana later said it was the worst day of her life. The honeymoon didn't fix anything. They spent it on a royal yacht, and Diana slept through most of it. Less than a year into the marriage, she discovered Charles was still involved with Camilla. When she confronted him, he denied it. He told her she was imagining things, that she was paranoid. It broke her. At one point, overwhelmed and desperate to be heard, Diana threw herself down a staircase while pregnant. Staff rushed to help her. The Queen called for a doctor. Charles kept walking, getting ready for a riding trip. And still, every time she stepped outside, Diana smiled, waved, and played her role. Because from the outside, the fairy tale had to continue. By the time Diana became a mother, the marriage was already breaking. William was born when Diana was just 20. She was still figuring herself out, and now she was expected to raise a future king. Oddly enough, being a mother gave her something she hadn't felt before: purpose. William grounded her. When she talked about him, her face changed. For the first time, she felt needed in a real way. But even after William was born, nothing improved between her and Charles. He stayed distant, cold, emotionally unavailable. The press often treated Diana like she was just the wife or the baby carrier. During interviews, reporters focused on Charles and barely looked at her until they asked how the baby was doing. It was demeaning, but Diana played along. She smiled. She answered politely. That was the job. Behind closed doors, she was spiraling. The pressure of being watched all the time, combined with a loveless marriage, pushed her into bulimia. It became her way of coping. She was in her early 20s, trapped in a role she never really chose, and surrounded by people who treated her pain like an inconvenience. Charles didn't step in. The royal family didn't either. Instead of seeing her as someone who needed help, they treated her like she was being dramatic. When Diana was 23, she met a cavalry officer named James Hewitt. This was the first time she felt truly seen by someone. The relationship lasted about a year. Around that same period, her second son, Harry, was born. Because of the timing, and because Harry didn't look much like Charles, rumors spread fast. Some people still believe Hewitt was Harry's biological father. The idea became so popular that it was even turned into a stage play. What mattered more than the rumors was how Diana handled her kids. She didn't want William and Harry raised the way she was. She pushed Charles to be involved. She insisted they go to school with other children. She took them to places most royals would never consider fast food restaurants, water parks, shopping malls. She brought them to homeless shelters so they could hand out food and see real life up close. Charles hated this. He didn't understand why it was necessary. A few years later, Diana grew close to one of her bodyguards, Barry Mannicky. He made her feel safe. He listened. He treated her like a person, not a problem. Diana later said nothing physical happened between them, but emotionally, she depended on him. Once the relationship was discovered, Charles had him removed from her security team. Not long after that, Mannicky died in a motorcycle accident. Diana was devastated. Charles told her the news casually, like it meant nothing. Minutes later, she had to step out in front of cameras and pretend she was fine. Smile, wave, do the job. Later, Diana would say she believed Mannicky had been killed. By this point, she knew something had to change, because if she stayed silent, she didn't think she would survive the marriage. By the early 1990s, Diana wasn't hiding anymore. The marriage was basically over, even if it still existed on paper. She and Charles were living separate lives, and the media knew it. The pressure was nonstop. Cameras outside her home. Headlines every day. Rumors everywhere. At some point, Diana realized something important. Staying quiet wasn't protecting her. It was destroying her. So she did something no royal wife had ever done before. She talked. Diana secretly worked with a journalist named Andrew Morton. She told him everything. The cheating, the loneliness, the eating disorder, the mental breakdowns. When the book came out, it shocked people. For the first time, the public saw what life inside a royal marriage actually looked like. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't romantic. It was cold and painful. Charles responded a few years later with his own interview, where he finally admitted he had been unfaithful to Diana with Camilla. That confession changed everything. The image of the perfect royal marriage collapsed completely. Then came Diana's interview on BBC Panorama. She didn't hold back. She talked openly about her marriage, about her mental health, about how isolated she felt. And she said something that stuck in everyone's mind, that there were 3 people in the marriage. After that, there was no going back. The Queen stepped in and demanded a divorce. In 1996, it was official. Diana was no longer Princess of Wales. She lost the title, but she gained something else, freedom. And surprisingly, she started doing better. She wasn't bulimic anymore. She wasn't as depressed. She felt lighter. Without royal rules holding her back, Diana became something different. Not just a royal figure, a global celebrity. She focused on causes that actually mattered to her. She worked with AIDS patients at a time when people were still afraid to touch them. She walked through landmine fields to show the real human cost of war. One photo of her holding a child who had lost a leg changed public opinion almost overnight. Laws started changing soon after. Politicians didn't like that. She didn't care. She sold off her expensive dresses and donated millions to charity. She stopped trying to fit into the royal system and started using attention as a weapon for good. And people loved her even more for it. Around this time, Diana began dating Dodi Fayed. He was wealthy, charming, and part of a powerful family. The paparazzi followed them everywhere. Some reports claimed they were planning to get married. Others claimed she was pregnant. Nothing was ever confirmed, but rumors exploded. On August 31st, 1997, everything ended. Diana and Dodi were in a car in Paris trying to escape photographers. The car crashed in a tunnel. Dodi died instantly. Diana was rushed to the hospital, but she didn't survive. She was 36 years old. The world froze. Millions mourned. Flowers filled the streets. People cried openly. It felt unreal. Official investigations later said it was an accident. The driver had been drinking. The paparazzi were chasing the car. No seatbelts were worn. Case closed. But not everyone accepted that. Some pointed out missing camera footage. Delayed medical response. Prior warnings Diana had given about being afraid of a staged accident. Dodi's father spent years pushing conspiracy theories, convinced the crash was planned. To this day, people still argue about what really happened. What isn't debated is this: Diana changed the royal family forever. She changed how people saw power, charity, and vulnerability. And through William and Harry, her influence is still alive. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't safe. But she was real. And that's why people still talk about her. If you completed this shadowing exercise, you're doing it right. This is how fluency is built: repetition and consistency. Keep shadowing like this. Stay consistent, and your English will improve naturally. If this video helped you, I'd appreciate a like or a subscribe. See you in the next episode.